I didn't realize until recently that upwards of 12,000 women will be diagnosed with invasive cervical cancer this year, and I never thought I'd be one of them. I did know that nearly all cervical cancers are caused by HPV, a sexually transmitted virus. But having an STD was certainly nothing I thought I'd have to worry about. After all, my husband and I started dating in my senior year of high school. That was over 30 years ago. And earlier this year, we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. My name is Carolann, and unfortunately, there are too many women with stories like mine. 3 months after our anniversary, I needed a minor internal procedure. During that procedure, my gynecologist found an area that, in her words, didn't seem quite right. She took a biopsy just to be sure. 5 days later, I went in for what I thought would be a routine follow-up. It was anything but routine. She told me the biopsy had come back positive for both cancer and HPV. She was as shocked as I was. All my tests had been clean. I had none of the risk factors normally associated with cervical cancer. She explained that the cancer I had was in a location high in the cervical canal where the Pap test doesn't reach as effectively. I'd always assumed that a negative Pap smear was a guarantee that I didn't have to worry about cancer. In addition to being in shock over the cancer diagnosis, I couldn't get over the fact that I had an HPV. I'm an art teacher working on my third master's. I'm an active member of my church. I don't smoke. I don't drink heavily. I even try to get to the gym occasionally. I'm not the kind of person who gets STDs, or so I thought. My gynecologist could see that I was really hung up on the virus issue, so she explained that the vast majority of adults in the U.S. will get HPV at some point in their life, more than 75% of all sexually active adults. It's the common cold of STDs. For most women, the immune system will fight it off before it causes precancerous cell changes, but for others like me, the virus will linger for years or lay dormant and reappear later. My doctor continued to explain that only a few of the HPV subtypes cause cancer. Type 16 and 18 in particular are high risk. Of course, I had one of those. I was positive for 18. I can't begin to explain how devastating the cancer diagnosis was. At first, I was numb, and then I was terrified. I was terrified that I would never see my boys graduate from college. I was afraid I wouldn't have the chance to see them get married or have kids. And I couldn't imagine leaving my husband alone. 30 years together didn't feel like enough time. Honestly, nothing in my life has been as hard as coming home from that appointment and telling him the diagnosis. For weeks during the testing and surgery, it felt like our world was collapsing. As it turned out, my cancer had not yet spread, and my oncologist was able to remove the entire tumor with an aggressive radical hysterectomy. I was out of work for 8 weeks recovering and will have follow-ups with my oncologist for 5 years to ensure that the cancer hasn't returned. Luckily, I won't be one of the nearly 4,000 women who die of cervical cancer this year. I'm thankful that going forward, the statistics related to new cases and deaths can be greatly reduced. There is an HPV vaccine available now for children as young as 9 and up to age 26. And this year, the FDA approved the first HPV DNA test to be used as the primary screening tool for cervical cancer. This HPV DNA test can identify a woman's risk of developing disease early when the doctors can initiate medical interventions and hopefully prevent the invasive cancers from happening. And while no test will catch 100% of the cases, it is each woman's responsibility to schedule routine GYN exams and HPV screening according to current guidelines. Since most women will get HPV at some point, early detection of the high-risk forms is the best way to prevent what I went through.